Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for February 28th. I will call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Start out with a land acknowledgement. The Blackfalds Town Council acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. First item is our adoption of the agenda. Administration, any changes or amendments to our agenda this evening?
No additional items, Your Worship.
Council? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for February 28th? Councillor Dennis?
I so move the agenda.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. We do have a delegation this evening. Tonight we're joined by Jeff Morrison, who would like to present to us in regards to the train cessation. Good evening.
Bill, I just want to
I'll just get you to press the button in the middle of that microphone there. Thank you.
Okay, is everything good now?
You bet.
All right, no, it's just concerns over the excessive horn noise from the train, especially since we put the new infrastructure in, everything with the new intersections now, where previously when people would always bring up, oh, you live in Blackfalds, how do you handle the train? Is before it was like, you kind of learn to tolerate it, where now you just can't. I understand the liability of it to be able to have it going where it falls onto, I believe it's CN rather than Blackfalds if they're hitting their horn. But now with the fences in place, you've got lights, you've got you got lights, you got bells, you've got arms coming down, you've got fence in there, you've done all the due diligence needed. There are other jurisdictions that have canceled, that have ceased being able to hit the horns from the trains when they're going through places like Canmore and Banff, and also, what is it? Not Lacombe, but just south of Edmonton, sorry. But they're working on it right now. And I don't feel it's necessary to have it. And also another thing is where you guys are trying to be able to, of course, as a town, you want to be able to advertise yourself and attract people to actually move here, invest here, businesses and stuff like that. Again, one of those things where I get constantly asked is, doesn't the train drive you nuts? And the answer is yes. And that's driving a lot of people from moving here. Or if you could cease it and, like during the day is one thing, but at night when people are trying to sleep, especially in the summertime, you can't sleep. You get woken up 3, 4, 5 times a night and you can't sleep, and it's not necessary, especially at night, especially now since you have done all the due diligence to be able to put all the safety factors into place. That isn't necessary to still have that horn. It could really attract, like you're saying, it could attract a lot of people to be able to want to move here where, there's a train that goes through, but you don't know it's there. Other than the fact that you have the intersections that are controlled, you have fences that you can't go across. Fact of the matter is anyone that's going to get hit by it is getting hit by it intentionally. It's a lot more dangerous to try to cross 2A where you've got constant traffic going through and all you have there is just lights. But here, for something that comes through where even without a horn on it, you can hear it coming for forever. And you've got all your barriers in place. I don't feel it's necessary to have that still. Has there been anything spoken about to try to be able to see if it's still necessary? Has that been a discussion brought up previously?
This council has not had discussions. Administration, have we got any indication of how long it's been or whether this has been a discussion with the town?
Your Worship, I don't have any information as to when it was last brought up, not since I've been in a position here with the town of Blackfalds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, because apparently there's a lot of complaints. I know that everyone that you talk to that lives here drives them nuts, but it's just something that you tolerate to be here. But it'd be nice to not have to tolerate to be here. It would be nice to be able to attract more people to want to move here. And that's a big sticking point of not going right through town. I live almost as far away as you can on the east side of town. And like I said, I cannot sleep in the summertime. I try to sleep with my windows open and I can't, because of just that, how bad it is. They don't need to sit there and hold on to horn there was one time I timed it with more than 5 minutes from start to finish the entire time going through. It's completely unnecessary, especially when you've done all the mitigation in place there. I do, like I said, I do understand the liability of it, but I think that you've minimized that liability if you went through, talk to insurances and everything with the fact that you've put the safety factors in place. No, you've got it completely blocked off. Anyone that wants to get in there is intentionally getting in there. It's not like before when it was wide open. Yes, you still had the arms, you still had the indication that trains were coming, but you still had the ability to walk across. That's been taken away now. And I was curious if maybe that was put in anticipation or the intent of trying to be able to get this to stop.
We can certainly pose questions to, and I guess we have that opportunity. I'll give council, though, an opportunity to ask questions to you if they have any, before we pose any to administration. Council, anyone have any questions for Jeff this evening? Councilor Pell.
Thank you. Not a question, just a comment. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Anyone? So I will pose that to administration. Do we? I'm assuming that on a regular basis we do have conversations with CP. Do we know at this point what the requirements would be for the town? Should this be something that we would want to look at?
Definitely, Your Worship, this falls under Transport Canada regulations, and there are specific requirements to have whistle cessation put in place. Should council desire, administration would be pleased to put together a report to bring forward to the next council meeting for consideration.
Thank you. Councilor Pell. Oh boy.
Thank
Get
you.
used to this.
I was just going to say, yeah, there's a quite detailed list on the Government of Canada website for municipalities of what we need to do to further that. So.
I would appreciate more information from administration on this. I know that in the past, just being out in the public and stuff, people have brought that to our attention before even I was on council. And now that you've brought it forward, I would like to see something done, even if it's just coming forth from administration, and maybe eventually do a survey to our residents and see where they want to go with this. I really appreciate you coming forward with this. I thank you.
Like I was saying, it doesn't, even if it's at a minimum at night, that's when it's most disruptive. I mean, during the day, people are living their lives, but at night, people are trying to be able to rest and sleep. And that's one of the things that even sold me on this when we bought here was I just didn't, it's my fault. I didn't do my due diligence, but something the realtor said is I'm pretty sure that it can't sound at night anymore. Pretty sure that they have it in place where it doesn't ring, doesn't sound at night. And it's, like I said, it's extremely disruptive. I understand for safety purposes, but at the same time, you don't need to hear it from 25 kilometers away. Like it's, like I said, I live as far away from it as you can in Blackfalds, as far east as you can. And it wakes me up numerous times. Well, it wakes everyone up in town up numerous times a night. It would be nice if it was all the time, but I mean, to me, at least personally, the most important thing is just trying to be able to get rest. And that would be a huge selling point also for the town as well, to try to be able to attract more people that, this goes through, but you know what, they stop this. There might be a lot of people where that was stopping them from coming up here for, because this is a wonderful place to live. It is, easily probably 15 to 20% cheaper than Red Deer. And I mean, I think it's a lot nicer. The only bad part is that's the only real bad part about it is the train. And if it's possible to stop that, it would be an amazing thing, I think, for the entire town. And again, if you look at the whole risk reward thing, especially if it's only at night, mitigation has been put in place. You have barriers in place. You have all the signage. You have all the alarms. You have everything in place. And if it was at night, like you put barriers in place to do the due diligence. And I don't see how if maybe not everything is met, there might be a couple small things, but I can't imagine that we're probably 90% of the way there to be able to stop it. So no, I know I would appreciate it. And I think probably 90% of the population, but just out of curiosity for this, is it published where do you find the outcomes of discussions for this? Because I would imagine it'll be months for that. But as for outcomes of this, where do you find it down the road for somebody just to be able to look for it, see if anything's happened?
Well, that's what we'll discuss this evening, whether or not we put a timeline on this, as our CEO has indicated that he will put together a package, but we'll have a little bit of discussion here. Perhaps we'll put a timeline on that. But I see Councillor Stendy.
So through the chair to administration, I know that we have, just from my previous research, at least one railway crossing within town limits that does not meet the Alberta transportation requirements. So I'm curious to know, when administration comes back with information, what the cost would be to bring that up to snuff, and whether that cost would fall on us or CP Rail. And as well, within that package, if we could also have information about railway crossings that are within just outside of town limits, because I'm aware that there is at least one on the east side that's quite close to town on Lakeside Sargent Road, I believe. So if we could just get a little more information about all of the ones that are in town or close to town, and what the cost would be, and whether or not we would need to go to Lacombe County to have a conversation with them potentially about their railway crossings as well, that would be wonderful.
Councillor Coulter.
Oh, I'm working. Sorry. Like the other councillors, I'm grateful that you brought this forward. Through the chair to administration, just to extend on Councillor Sendy's comment in regards to cost, what is it, sort of the blank area between Grandin Auto and no, those other buildings down there.
Southwest there, the direction it goes southwest.
Yeah,
Contour.
it is not fenced along there. So is it, with that hill, is it possible to find out what the cost, and if it's CP's cost that would pick it up, or the town in regards to putting fencing along there? Because I know a lot of people cross there as well.
But the horn going off is at railroad crossing, so that wouldn't fall under a railroad crossing though. That's because people can cross train tracks anywhere, is it not?
No.
It's trespassing.
Your worship, we'll put
No, I mean, but people do trespass anywhere. But I thought that for them to hit their horn, it's when you're approaching a actual crossing, just like this right now. See how peaceful it is. But I thought that was it, just for road crossing. So you've done another road crossing. You have a designated pedestrian crossing that is just northeast of Grandin Auto. You have fencing there already. If anyone is that's trespassing, like you're saying elsewhere, that is, I don't think that falls under where that they're supposed to be hitting the horns anyway.
I just know sometimes they continue on.
CEO Thompson.
Yeah, Your worship, we'll put together a complete package. I mean, definitely a concern of CP Rail is that there is trespassing across the rail lines, and in areas where there is no fencing, there's about 5 locations. So definitely the installation of additional fencing would be a requirement, among other things. So we will put together that complete package for council's consideration for next meeting.
Thank you. So, Mr. Morrison, as you hear here this evening, there's a little bit of legwork for the town to do their due diligence. There's a certain amount that's within our control, or information that we already know, and clearly CP is going to play a big role in this, and ultimately they're going to be the agency that will ultimately be willing to do this or not, depending on whether the town can meet those requirements. So CEO Thompson, do you anticipate that next week would be something that, or what would you suggest would be a more reasonable timeline, or a reasonable timeline for administration to actually come up with a complete package?
Your worship, we can have it for the first meeting in March. I've had some discussions with CP Rail already. We have some information, so it's just a matter of having some discussion among administration and assembling the information for council.
Okay, so Jeff, I hope that gives you an answer to your question as to when this might be coming back. That doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be in a position to make a decision, but we can certainly fill in some blanks as to the questions that you
Yeah, I'm
asked.
just curious if in 2 or 3 months, if I just come back in downstairs and ask if there's been any stuff on it, or like how would I be able to find out information as to whether anything's getting going on it, or if it looks like it's a do?
Yeah,
a go
I would
or not?
suggest that once that meeting, the agenda comes out, or even the minutes following that, will give you a better indication as to
You
how
just find
prepared the
those
town
online?
is to give those answers.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you guys very
Thank you.
much.
Thank
All right,
you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Okay, and we do have a public hearing this evening, so we will move into public hearing. The following public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentation should be brief and to the point. The order of the presentation shall be the entry of the written submission, comments from the Planning and Development section of the Infrastructure and Property Services Division, those supporting the bylaw, those opposing the bylaw, any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. The public hearing purpose is to receive comments from any interested parties on the proposed bylaw. I hereby declare the public hearing related to bylaw 1276.23 open.
The purpose of bylaw 1276.23 is to amend the land use bylaw 1268.22 to redistrict a 25-meter strip of land on the eastern boundary of 4405 South Street, Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 1022233, which is approximately 2.53 hectares in size, from Commercial Highway District C2 to Public Facility District to accommodate future consolidation of this 25-meter strip of land into 4401 South Street, and where the RCMP and fire hall are located. First reading was given to bylaw 1276.23 at the January 24th, 2023 regular council meeting. Notice of this public hearing was advertised in accordance with section 606 of the Municipal Government Act in the February 16th, 2023 and February 23rd, 2023 editions of Lacombe Express, via email to local authorities and agencies on January 26, 2023, on the bulletin board in the town civic center upstairs outside of the council chambers, on the planning and development web page of the town's website commencing January 27th, 2023, on the town's social media channels. Landowners adjacent to 4401 South Street and 4405 South Street were notified via letters mailed out on January 26, 2023, and the hard copy of the proposed bylaw 1276.23 was available for viewing at the town civic center front counter. The following written comments have been received to date. January 27th, 2023 email submissions from TELUS indicating there was no objections. January 27th, 2023 email submissions from Shaw indicating no objections. And February 13th, 2023 email submissions from Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors indicating no objections.
Thank you. Are there any late written submissions related to the bylaw?
No, there isn't, Your Worship.
Thank you. We'll see comments from the Planning and Development section.
Good evening, Mayor Hoover, members of council. The Planning and Development Department is currently processing a subdivision application to subdivide a 25-meter strip of land off the eastern boundary of Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 1022233, approximately 0.50 hectares in size, and consolidated into the adjacent parcel, legally described as Lot 2, Block 1, Plan 1022233. Subdivision sketches on the screen before you. Both of these parcels have different land use districts attributed to them. Lot 2, where the Protective Services Building is located, is currently designated Public Facility District. And Lot 3, where the vacant town-owned parcel is currently designated Commercial Highway District C2. The amending bylaw before council proposes to redistrict the sliver of land being subdivided and consolidated into Lot 2 so the entire parcel has the same land use district. The administrative recommendation before council is that council, upon closing the public hearing for bylaw 1276.23, gives second reading to bylaw 1276.23. And secondly, that council, upon giving second reading to bylaw 1276.23, gives the third and final reading to bylaw 1276.23. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who supports the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone who opposes the bylaw and wishes to speak? Is there anyone deemed to be affected by the bylaw and wishes to speak?
I'm neither affected. I neither oppose nor support the bylaw. This really doesn't pertain to this bylaw, but more the adherence to the Municipal Governance Act. I don't believe that the town in this instance adhered to the Municipal Governance Act. You can say you published it in the Lacombe Express. Everybody here that gets the Lacombe Express raise their hands. My concern is more with future public hearings and the adherence to the Municipal Governance Act. It was shared on the town's Facebook page on February 13th and then again on February 27th. Not that it didn't meet the two-week requirement of 606 2A of the Municipal Governance Act. So this particular bylaw change makes no difference to me. What matters to me is that administration and council follow the Municipal Governance Act the same as has been told to me numerous times. So yeah, again, the Lacombe Express, I'm not sure, are they still in print? Anybody? Where can I get a Lacombe Express?
Pretty sure it's online. I believe
Is
there's
there-
still published papers.
We have at our fingertips social media, and other municipalities use it to an excellent degree. Sylvan Lake being one of them. This town uses it poorly, and that is choosing. So I don't know. I'm just asking that in future public hearings, that the public be notified on all the social media channels. I think that that's an acceptable form of communication nowadays to everybody else. Agree? Disagree? So I just don't think that publishing in the Lacombe Express is an acceptable form of publication. I'd challenge you to survey the public and see how many people read the Lacombe Express. I do see it online, things they share. They didn't share this public notification online to my knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stende.
Through the chair to administration, I do have a question, actually. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place to ask that, but I'm going to go ahead and ask anyway. I looked at section 606 in the MGA, and I didn't see anywhere where it said that it had to be the same publication or where it was specific about what is considered a publication. And I did hear you mention several different dates and several different spaces where that was advertised. So under the MGA, does that not still meet that requirement?
Your worship, through the Councillor Stendy, I believe we meet the requirement. Undoubtedly, we no longer have a local paper, which is an impediment. Definitely social media is there. You're right, it's not specific on the requirements. What we've done in this case is what we've done in previous public hearing notices. So, but we will review the steps that we've taken in this one to ensure that we have done so.
Okay, thank you.
So a final call for anyone else that's deemed affected by the bylaw and wishes to speak. If not, I defer to Chairman. Thank you. Any other further comments from planning and development section? Any councilors have any further questions? And if nothing further, then I hereby declare the public hearing related to bylaw 1276.23 to be closed, and we'll accept the motion to adjourn this public hearing. I don't see a light on. Well, let's try that again. Thank you. Councillor Sands.
So moved.
Any debate or discussion? Call the question. All in favor? So adjourned. We do have business arising from the minutes. 6.1, request for decision and Integrity Commissioner Consulting Services, CO Thompson.
Thank you, Worship. The town of Blackfalds, through a request for proposal process undertaken in 2022, secured the service of a consultant to undertake a council code of conduct investigation. A secondary service that was provided in the firm's formal proposal was for a service pertaining to the role of local integrity commissioner on a time and material basis. The role of local integrity commissioner is to act independently of council administration to support a transparent and impartial process in key aspects relating to making recommendations and improvements to the council code of conduct bylaw. The role would also include supporting members of council in the performance of their functions and procedures relative to their governance role, providing advice and rulings on ethical challenges and issues, and completing investigations of complaints and alleged breaches of the council code of conduct bylaw. The understanding of the consultant is that the initiation of actions undertaken in the Integrity Commissioner role would be action through administration. This process has not been formally addressed previously to council, and recent discussions with the council indicated desire of council to have the ability for council members to be able to contact the Integrity Commissioners directly to act on matters outlined in the role of the Integrity Commissioner. For this reason, this matter is before council to seek direction and to update and formalize the process. Funding for this activity will fall under the legislative services, with budget amounts determined and included through the spring budget adjustment process. There will also be a need to have a standardized form created that would be utilized to initiate the process to be undertaken by the local integrity commissioner. Through further discussions at the February 14th regular council meeting, there was a formal resolution adopted that administration create a formal process to activate the role of the local integrity commissioner in assisting with council performance functions. Further discussion on the role of the local integrity commissioner and the options relating to the process and utilizing the services of the local integrity commissioner was further discussed at the second governance workshop held on February 21st, facilitated by Russ Farmer and Associates. Discussions at this meeting included concerns in having issues first brought before council for consensus approval prior to being brought before the integrity commissioner. This option has the potential to politicize the role of the commissioner, whereby the majority of council could block investigations. Other options were discussed that included the existing process of code of conduct concerns first brought forward to the CEO for review prior to having the involvement of the integrity commissioner. This would provide an opportunity to look at alternative options that may better align to address the matter, including mediation. But it also from a financial tracking standpoint, but could place the CEO in a difficult position determining the validity of the complaint or appearing partisan in matters between two or more council members. A third option was also discussed, whereby the integrity commissioner would be available to answer questions or to consider complaints with the power to determine if a matter warrants investigation. In this option, the integrity commissioner would be required to track time and activities and provide itemized billing monthly. Council would therefore be aware of all inquiries and complaints going to the integrity commissioner. Also, individuals who bring forward repeated complaints could be deemed vexatious by council and have their power to directly contact the integrity commissioner without the direction of council withdrawn. The existing council code of conduct bylaw 1272.22, which was attached in the package, includes part 17 informal complaint process and part 18 formal complaint process, and it does already provide a formal process. These processes articulate the procedure to be taken to address complaints, and minor amendments could be made to improve clarity in the process. An example would be the term investigator is identified in the bylaw as being council or an individual or body established by council to investigate and report on complaints. So in that case, identity and clarity of the role of integrity commissioner, and remove the ambiguity between investigator and outside body. It is anticipated some minor amendments to the bylaw will more clearly identify the investigation body and the initial processes in undertaking complaint investigations, depending on the will of council relating to the options outlined. Administration will expect to make amendments to the bylaw based on council's decision and direction, and to have the amended bylaw back before council for formal adoption. Therefore, administration is seeking council direction and making determined changes to the process to activate the role of local integrity commissioner and assisting with formal and informal complaint processes.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Stende.
So I do have two concerns about it, the way that it's laid out in this. The first being that under the MGA, you are our only employee. So reaching out to an employee of yours, which would be the ethics commissioner, is breaching the MGA. Also, my second concern is that if vexatious complaints were coming in, those are going to cost the municipality funds. So if someone is consistently reaching out to the ethics commissioner without the knowledge of council, council is essentially not being responsible to our residents in allowing that person to ring up a big bill. I don't like it the way it is written. I think that it should go through the CAO as it is the CAO's employee.
Your worship, through to Councillor Stende, I don't believe the consultant would be the CEO's employee. The whole idea of having integrity commissioner is an outside body acting independently of council and administration. So I don't see that person being or directed by the CEO in any shape or form.
So if I may, to that regard, then essentially any consultant hired by the town would be staff of the town. So when the EBC was being built, any member of council could have gone over and given direction to consultants. And that's not the way the MGA is laid out. That isn't, those are employees of the municipality, which essentially falls under the CAO's role. So my understanding is that the ethics commissioner essentially would be the same. And I might be wrong, but I still don't feel that one person should have the power to cause charges to the municipality without the consent of council, or at least it going through the CAO.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Excuse me. So from what I noted in this, while I do like in the third option presented, the fact that council would be receiving monthly reports, because as we currently have not ever received any report or bill or anything from the integrity commissioner. I do believe if we were to look at an agreement with the integrity commissioner and adjusting our agreement, I believe we could make it known that they would be an employee of, or maybe not an employee, but as CEO Thompson mentioned, a third body who would be directly reporting to council and not through administration, to therefore eliminate having the CAO in the middle. So I do like that. The other thing I thought in here as well, excuse me, is that the commissioner would always as well, they'll always have the opportunity to suggest alternative options or processes. Just because they're in discussion, it doesn't mean it automatically goes to investigation. So I think that would be an important item to note. And then my other question, because I was expecting, when this was in the agenda for tonight, I expected it to be a separate policy or sort of a separate document as discussed, not to be part of the chamber or the council code of conduct bylaw. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to have all the rules and regulations and contract that we have with the integrity commissioner to be under this bylaw, because I feel like it makes more sense to be a separate item. That way, if that has to change, we're not going back and redoing, making changes to our
Mhm.
code of conduct bylaw again, as it's gone through several iterations over the past couple years. And then just one final note, it was mentioned at the February 21st meeting with the integrity commissioner that we would be seeing some sort of bill or something, but to date, nothing has come across my email. So I don't know if anybody else got anything, but I certainly haven't.
Just for comment, Your Worship, through the Councillor Pell, I think the Council Code of Conduct bylaw already has significant verbiage in there to address the complaint process. So I think that's a perfect place to bolster that instead of having a separate standalone policy and just adding confusion to it. This is Council's Code of Conduct bylaw, so I think having every aspect of that all in one bylaw to me would make more sense.
Just to reply subsequent then, would council be receiving, depending on which way we go with this, but if we were hypothetically to go with the option and have the integrity commissioner as a third party person who would report directly to council, would we be seeing a contract that states that information more thoroughly?
Definitely, if we're going to go with that route, we would have a contract that lays out that specifically and addresses the concerns of Councillor Sandy as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
And CO Thompson, my understanding of the MGA is that the CAO has the ability to delegate authority. Would you, in your opinion, would you suggest that this would fall under that authority, that you would be delegating, or the CEO would be delegating that authority to someone else? So, for example, the City of Red Deer has a chief of staff. They don't, their council doesn't go through the CEO for every matter.
I think so, Your Worship. This is new territory for us, and so definitely I think there's a little bit more information that we need to gather to make the amendments to the bylaw, but I think that we can satisfy all the concerns of council, including that comment.
Thank you. And then further, my suggestion on this is that we are looking at this, and we should be looking at this for future councils, regardless of what may be thoughts and opinions for this current council. I think we have to keep in mind that when we are refining this, and keep in mind that this is relatively new for councils in Alberta. This is only mandated from municipal affairs 5 years ago. And in my experience in that time, and even as recently as the Brownlee LLP Emerging Trends, this was a fairly significant conversation there where many councils are struggling with this mandated bylaw that they put in place that aren't necessarily working well for every council. And I think we've already demonstrated as a council, a previous council, that there needed to be some refinements, which we've done. I think that we, in recent discussions, that we need to refine this even further for clarification, not just for what's happening in current councils, but for future councils. And I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that this works for future councils, not just for this current council. So at this point, do we have any other comments or questions before we consider any motion? So I don't think at this point we've given any clear direction to administration, and that's the purpose of this. Councillor Stanley.
Through the chair to administration. So with this motion, are you looking for specific changes, or are you just hoping to bring forward the bylaw with changes for council to discuss? Do you feel that with the discussion tonight and the comments that were made, you have enough to make changes to that, or do you want something more specific?
No, I don't have enough information, Councillor. I believe that council had some good discussion at the 21st meeting, and the three options that are laid out, I think represents some of the discussion that took place. So what I'm looking for is the option that council would like to go with, so that we can make the amendments to the bylaw to reflect that option.
Councillor Stendy?
So if I may, at the governance meeting, it wasn't actually a discussion.
Okay.
It was information that was shared from Mr. Farmer on what he would like to see. There was no conversation amongst council about what they were hoping to see. And I don't think that anyone was actually prepared to have that conversation. We were not aware that he was going to bring that forward at the governance meeting. So I know I didn't feel prepared to have that conversation. I'm not sure how the rest of council felt, but that wasn't a discussion.
Okay, then my apologies. That was my assumption until the discussion. We can defer this item, give council more time to consider, and then I can bring it back to the next meeting. Council wishes to have more time. Or that would probably be the best thing. I think it's hard for administration to take any further without any direction.
Councillor Pell?
Thank you. So I would be happy, and I think it's a great idea to go around and get everyone's thoughts on this. But I would be happy seeing a option come forward from administration with changes to the bylaw that's sort of a hybrid option. So I prefer the third option, where the integrity commissioner would be reporting directly to council, and council would still receive monthly bills or reports. Obviously, only on months when things happen. I'm not trying to make work for any additional work. But I think that would be a great starting point for us to see. And that doesn't mean that that's the way it's always going to be, but at least we have a direction to move forward in, so we can see how that works. So that would be my vote, but I'm interested in hearing everyone's thoughts.
Councillor Sands? Oh, your mic's off. Try that again.
I think at this point, for myself, I'm not prepared to like Councillor Stendy said, to have a discussion about it until I'm able to review it a little bit more. I just don't feel comfortable with something as important as this to just fire something back. So I'd like a little more time myself. Thank you.
Councillor Coulter?
Excuse me, I agree with what the councillors have said here tonight. Having another having more of a expand on option 3, because option 3 is something that sort of appeals to me, but having more information is actually more appealing to be able to go forward with any kind of a decision.
Deputy Mayor Spaulding?
I like what Councillor Pell has said. I really think it needs to be in the councillor's corner, and we should be able to make the decisions together as a council. And we should be able to see any bills that are obtained. So I think that's a start for information, and then we can maybe review it in our next council meeting. If there's other things for us to add, I think that would be a good start, and then we can have a couple more weeks to process what we've learned tonight, and then just carry on at the next meeting. So I can make that a motion.
Yeah, and so I'd just like to comment first. I would support a motion that gives some direction to administration based on the third recommendation, I think that it's obvious that there's a need for this potentially for council members to access advice without putting the rest of council in a position of conflict of interest, as well as a CAO. But it's reasonable expectation for this council to have the ability to monitor that, and based on the discussion with with Russ Farmer, there would be a limit to that. So I would support a motion that gives some structure to that. That if we need to review that and refine that further, then so be it. But at this point, I think that this council is kind of stuck in a void where it's putting certain people in a conflict of interest. So I would like to see a motion to at least have administration provide some language based on the third option. Councillor Dennis.
I think Councillor Stendy is going to comment there too.
Councillor Stendy.
I was. Thank you for pointing that out. What I was going to say was I actually wholeheartedly appreciate the comments from Councillor Appel this evening. I think that that is a reasonable starting place, and I would like to see that come back from administration for council discussion.
Okay, so I believe that Deputy Mayor Svab was prepared to make a motion based on that discussion.
So I'll move that this goes back to administration with more clarity or more information on how we can obtain where to redirect it back to council as being the body that will be in charge of the integrity commissioner, and that our council, if somebody wants to access the integrity commissioner, would come, that council member would have to come to council before it goes out. And I would also like to see that when a bill is processed from the integrity commissioner, that it does come to council right away. Does that work for a motion?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's clear enough. What direction is it that council is giving? So I'll give Councillor Appel an opportunity.
I was just going to ask through the chair to Deputy Mayor Swab for a point of clarification, just because option 1 was to have everything to come to council first before it goes to the integrity commissioner, but option 3 was allow councillors to contact them if they need be, but council would be receiving bill and then would be able to proceed accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so CEO Thompson, do we have something, would you like something drafted a little more clear, or do you believe that you?
More of option 3.
Yeah, I'm clear. I think your worship is to expand information relative to option 3 and clearly define the process relative to that, and bring it back to council.
Thank you. So everyone on council at this point have enough clarity to consider this motion? Any debate or discussion on the motion? Councillor Sands?
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point, and I will be in favor of that. Yes, we will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, I call the question. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to business items, item 7.1, request for decision on bylaw 1276.23, the redistricting of a portion of Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 102233. Second reading. I think we've talked about this enough, but just in case,
I appreciate the podium again. Thank you, Mayor Hoover and members of council. I won't go back through the report. I'll just reiterate the administration recommendations that are before you with respect to bylaw 1276-23. The first recommendation is that council, upon closing the public hearing, which we did, give second reading to bylaw 1276 1276.23, and second, that council, upon giving second reading to bylaw 1276.23, gives third and final reading to the bylaw.
Thank you. Any questions for administration before we consider second reading? Seeing none, do we have a motion to give the second reading? Councillor Sands.
I'll move that council, upon closing the public hearing for bylaw 1276.23, give second reading to bylaw 1276.23.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on the motion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Looking for third reading. Councillor Coulter.
I move that council, upon giving second reading by bylaw 1276.23, give third and final reading to bylaw 1276.23.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. 7.2 CEO report.
So there's been a fair amount of work done on the draft master fire services agreement with Lacombe County, and that was previously provided to council for review and recently provided to Lacombe County at the ICF meeting, and they have it for their review and consideration. And that includes the financial aspect that was recently provided to county manager. The annual report to the community is being worked on, with submissions by all departments to be received by tomorrow, March 1st, for review and printing, and to have it available for the upcoming Red Deer Home Show. Request for proposals being drafted for the border paving plaza screening wall, and will be extended publicly, seeking submissions for that work. The interview process for the mechanic position has been concluded, and we have person that has signed off on the employment contract, and so we expect to have that position in place in March. So we're very pleased with that, and it was a very good fit. We feared that we would have a hard time finding a mechanic that has heavy duty skills and regular mechanical skills, and able to repair anything from a weed eater up to a motor grader. So we're very pleased. Listing of surplus assets is being assembled across all municipal departments, and once concluded, these assets will be offered up through a public disposal process. So there's a lot of items that we have that are taking up storage space, no longer needed, from items of furniture to old printers and things like that. So every once in a while, you have to clean those out and offer them up for disposal and clear them out. IT and the Matrix Video Solutions recently upgraded the council chambers, audio-visual equipment, and digital cabling for compatibility to transmit both audio and video. Changes include the microphones and the goosenecks, all these wonderful things that has made our job a little easier, and providing better quality to the folks that are watching and listening. IT and records management have completed the file deduplication and are in the final stages of the implementation of our file indexing and retention platform. During this process, we will continue to work with all the departments to organize files and build a user-friendly version of the file plan for program area use. The physical records are continuing to be relocated, inventoried, and organized. For finance, the main activity this month has been preparing for the year-end working paper file for the auditors. This requires a review of all financial activities, and the year-end working file has been sent to the audit team, who will begin to review and make requests may request additional support information as they see necessary. The audit team is expected to be on site and complete the field work the first week of March. Finance is also working with a new MasterCard provider called WEX. This is a hands-on card management system, giving more control over the administration of card activity in real time. We are currently in the test stage, rolling out activity to only a few card holders while we establish new procedures and controls for the new system. Once all the controls, policies for use and procedures are established, we'll roll out the rest of to staff and council that currently have MasterCards issued. Finance has also begun a review with Census Analytics on an option for utility account holders to log on and review their water usage. This will assist account holders in having faster alerts on excessive usage and tracking water usage. Preparation is also underway in the 2024 budget preparation timeline and was recently brought before council for approval. Marketing Communications has been working with economic development to determine what items of swag would best represent the Blackfalds community. Economic Development has ordered several items to be given out at the Red Deer Trade Show, and more items will be ordered for other corporate events and offerings. The final proof of the spring and summer program and activity guide has been sent to Minuteman for printing of 1,500 copies outlining community information for the months of March through August. And this program guide's also online as well. Marcom has finalized updates to the vehicular wayfinding is in the last steps of completing pedestrian. This includes updating trail and park maps, roads, street names, etc. We hope that economic development successfully receives grant monies that have been applied for to help reduce some of the costs. Marketing Communications has also been working with parks in creating a more permanent and aesthetically pleasing rural sign to replace a temporary sign currently at the top of the stop-start hill on the park. In infrastructure and property services, planning development is researching and implementing new departmental policies and procedures to improve functionality and customer service. All property files existing in the rolling file cabinets from the old planning development office space are now in the new space that the filing cabinets have been transferred over to. Planning development is also currently working through the upcoming internal audit to take place for the Safety Codes Council. Potential development discussions within the Blackfalds Crossing Way and McKay Ranch areas are ongoing. Roadway signage has now been installed at the Eagle Builders Center, Grigg Way, and the Womax Road. Spring sweeping contract was advertised on Alberta Purchasing Connection, and the contract was awarded to Alberta Parking Lot Services. The contract is for spring cleaning, which is challenging on equipment due to the large amount of grounding material left on the roads from winter maintenance functions. Work continues in getting the mechanics area, office, and lift ready for the new position, as well as reviewing resumes received for the position, which that process has been completed. With the recent thawing temperatures, crews have been busy thawing storm drains to avoid buildup of water as we see more warm temperatures. Yearly maintenance on lift station pumps, including replacement of failed components. Also exploring options of odor management technologies for the Stanley Street lift station. Pedestrian CP rail crossing fence installation has been taking place with completion expected very soon. The department is working on the McKay Ranch lift station retender and costing. The department continues to work with Lacombe County regarding additional servicing requirements for the Aspenland Industrial Park. The director attended the ICF IDP supper meeting with the County of Lacombe and senior administration staff, and he also attended the Battle River Watershed meeting held recently in Camrose. The director and CSD director presented at the Red Deer Construction Association for 2023 capital project workshops in Red Deer. At the community center, they're completing a fitness survey from February 7th to 24th. So that's been completed to collect overall feedback regarding usage and experiences while using a facility. Registration is set to open on March 15th for fitness classes, arts and culture program, and league play. Transition steps are well underway to move from Red Cross programming to Life Saving Society swim lessons. This has necessitated some scheduling changes this summer, and we will be evaluating closely to monitor the process this year. We finally received the 3 pumps that have been on order since last August, which will restore operations on the Purple Water Slide and bring the leisure pool and hot tub to full operational capacity coming this spring. Registration is set to open May 1st for aquatics program and Camp Curious. We received $1,500 sponsorship from the Blackfalds District Egg Society for a field trip to Cray Family Farm for Camp Curious. And sponsorship has been secured for the installation of 2 picnic tables at the Abbey Center grounds this spring. One by the Blackfalds District Egg Society and the other by 28 individuals who together sponsored a table. A third will be installed as part of the Blackfalds Fieldhouse Society Rock Fundraiser Capital Project. And Eco Builders has graciously agreed to be the title sponsor for Super Kids for 2023. Manager Barnes is working with Vest Energy to have them as their title sponsor for the Bike Skills Park. As far as events, Winterfest was well attended, seeing over 700 people take part in the event. We had the firefighters barbecue, family bingo, dad's day off games, ice sculptures, and little chippers demonstration from Ice and White, a fire pit, and a movie in the library. RPG miniatures and painting club demonstrations of public skating in Arena 1. Starting to finalize the events for Blackfalds Days with administration. We're working with smaller budget, and so we're looking to get more organizations and volunteers to help and lead events. The Eagle Builder Center has been extremely busy this month with having sold out crowds for two of 6 Junior A games, under 7 and under 9 minor hockey tournament, and the Calgary Flames alumni game, which was a private event. The concession has expanded its food service to meet the demand of the increasing patrons during Junior A Bulldog games. We've opened the bank room to accommodate the influx of people during intermissions. FCSS was busy supporting members of the community through the Blackfalds Reaching Home project. Grant funding from the Government of Canada, facilitated through the Rural Development Network, supported community members to maintain their electricity, pay damage deposits, and put groceries in the fridge to ensure their water did not get turned off. The Youth Action Coalition's Youth Engagement Subcommittee met twice to discuss strategies to engage the youth in the community. The next coalition meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. Planning for upcoming programming includes a community volunteer income tax program taking place March and April. Upcoming volunteer recognition activities, the Best of Blackfalds Volunteer Edition, April 19th, and Youth Recognition Night, May 3rd, as well as family Easter events scheduled for April 1st. Light Up Blackfalds display was turned off on Tuesday, February 21st, after the light display was extended for an additional 6 weeks. With economic development, they've successfully recruited the 8th member of EdTech and hosted the January EdTech meeting in the Tails room downstairs. The Economic Development Officer also attended the Central Alberta Tourism Alliance, Central Alberta Economic Partnership, Lacombe Regional Tourism, and Blackfalds Chamber of Commerce scheduled meetings. He's also participated in town halls and information gathering sessions as part of the agritourism study with CADA and hosted by Expedition Management Consulting. Also hosted prospective doctor and their family in conjunction with the BH Park, Apollo Clinic, and FCSS. Also attended and participated in the Tourism Industry Association of Alberta, Central Alberta Tourism Town Hall, hosted by the town of Sylvan Lake. There's been numerous meetings with regional economic development colleagues, commercial realtors, and local business owners. There's been an application made for the Northern and Regional Economic Development Program Grant, Community Placemaking Initiative, Vehicle and Pedestrian Wayfinding Signage updates, and matching grant application for $21,615. We're also informed of the forthcoming 2022 CADA membership reimbursement in the amount of $5,000 as a result of the Destination Development Investment Grant from Travel Alberta. The reimbursement is a result of ongoing membership and collaboration with Red Deer Tourism and CADA. Enforcement services, municipal enforcement has had a busy month so far, opening 122 operational files, many being proactive enforcement of the traffic bylaw, ensuring sidewalks are cleared in accordance with the bylaw. The department's also issued 73 violation tickets and numerous warnings throughout the month. We continue to see a problem in the school zones during the times when school is going in and going out for the day. Officers have increased their presence in these areas to combat this issue. Fire department currently has 29 paid on-call members. In March, a third of the department will be completing their healthcare provider first aid recertification, as well as the department will be hosting a nice rescue course for half the department. OH&S have been working on addressing areas in which the municipality could improve as identified in the core audit. Items which could be rectified simply have been looked at first, with an action plan being developed to go forward with the remainder. A joint health and safety meeting was held on February 14th. A training plan has been put together for 2023, with many staff being registered for the online training courses AMSHA offers. With OH&S guidelines changing for first aid kits, new kits have been ordered for all buildings and vehicles as required. The old kits will be stripped of items and will be stored to use as replacement when the items are needed for the new kits. Fire drills will be planned soon for all town facilities to comply with the provincial requirements. With emergency management, March 21st, LREMP has planned a review of the emergency exercise conducted in October. This is the earliest date which could be arranged due to the scheduling of all municipalities involved. The annual CEMP review has been completed for the town's emergency program in conjunction with our LREMP partners. On February 23rd and 24th, 4 managers took place in the ICS 400 course being organized through Lacombe County. And finally, RCMP has had an active month to date. They're currently developing their annual performance priorities for 2023-24. Seeking input from the communities they serve. This year, they're trying a new approach where they're developing them along with the Sylvan Lake Detachment, keeping in mind the 2 municipalities share much of the same issues. The weekly report continues to be well received by the community. And that's the CO report, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Stende.
So in regards to municipal enforcement in the schools, would it be possible to ask our enforcement officers to maybe spend a little more time at the elementary school at 2:40? The reason I say that is that's when school wraps up. And on Shull Street, I've witnessed every single day for a month now, especially with the snow flying, people parking directly on top of the crosswalk on Shull Street on both sides and blocking the fire hydrant.
Councillor Sands.
I just have one question and just one comment. I'm just wondering, it says you're looking at options for odor control in the Stanley Street lift station. I'm just wondering what options we're looking at for that. What do you know what might work?
Well, we've
Right,
looked
okay,
at
looks good.
chemicals to add to the wet cells, but I think we're looking at a blower system or exhaust system that will better control that odor, and that's with, I believe it's carbon. Yeah, using carbon technology. So we're looking at various technologies. So we can provide further information once we refine the best option for that lift station.
Okay. And also, I just wanted to offer up my some time. Maybe I seen for Blackfalds Days might be looking for some volunteers. So I'd just like to offer up some time if I can help out, and it works out for my schedule. I'd like to offer that up.
Okay, I've got your name down.
Yeah, put it down. Thank you.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. So I also have one question and one comment. So my question through the chair is regarding the Abbey Center. It was mentioned the picnic tables, and we did have this come forward. Manager Simpson had brought it forward. My question is, if people are looking to help sponsor that 3rd additional table, who should they contact?
As far as I know, there's only the one that's sponsored by the 28 members, and then there was the one from the Egg Society. I don't know of a 3rd table, but
Okay,
there's
because it
I think
mentions
there's
they're looking.
there's
sorry.
7 options, I believe, 7 tables that we could put on that site.
Okay, so then if people are interested in contributing towards that, who should they contact?
Yes, they can contact Manager Simpson.
Managers. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then my comment was just regarding, I noticed in here we spoke about marketing and communications and the vehicular wayfinding. So my comment is just, I noticed that Google Maps has been updated to showcase our new intersection of how it actually is. So hooray. However, they still have an issue with Greg Street. It's still listed as Greg and not as the new Greg. So it's just whoever it does. I know it takes a long time to get Google to say, yes, there have been changes and do that. So it's like partially done, which is great. But yeah, there's still just a few.
Okay, thank you.
Few little bits. Thanks.
Just a quick question going back to that odor control. Could that or would that fall under the commission's responsibility? That's
No.
the town for that lift station. And I know that they have odor control management and they use, a specific system there. So clearly that's not something that we could implement. I know it's a pretty elaborate.
Yeah, it's a much
system.
larger facility compared to what we have. So, but I imagine it's comparable in technology. So council can stay tuned. We'll provide further information.
At the very least, I would imagine that experience with the commission would maybe tie into how the direction maybe what we
definitely.
consider with this other one.
Yeah, thank you.
And then my only other comment would just be to express appreciation to Eagle Builders in terms of their sponsorship for the Super Kids Triathlon. I know that I'm excited to see that event come back again. I think children in our community are very excited to participate in that one. And thank you to Eagle Builders for supporting that. So that's my 2 cents. Okay. And now moving on, 7.3, request for decision, Urban Hens. So accept it for information, yes.
I would like to move to
Councillor Pearl.
accept the CAO report as information.
Debate or discussion? All in favor? No, Urban Hens.
Thank you, Worship. At the January 16th Standing Committee meeting of Council, we had a delegation who are also here tonight, provided a presentation on urban chickens that include the resources provided by the Alberta Farm Animal Care and as well as various urban chicken bylaws from other municipalities. The presenters also presented the urban chickens to council at their regular council meeting of May 14th, 2019. Subsequent to that presentation at that standing committee, council had further discussion on the urban hen program and at that time directed administration to determine the viability of an urban hen program and to undertake a public survey. This information was then provided to council at the regular council meeting of September 10th, 2019. And this information has been provided as attachments to this item. Council accepted the urban hen review and the public survey as information at the September 10th, 2019 meeting. Similar information was provided to the Standing Committee of Council at the January 16th meeting, as was provided previously, and this information is also provided within the agenda package. With the urban hen program once again brought before council for consideration, administration is seeking council's input relative to the program.
Thank you, Council. Questions or comments? Councillor Stende.
Would it be an onerous process for administration to do a survey? Just a yes or no, are you in favor survey of our residents? And the reason why I'm asking is the last survey was a little lengthy and it wasn't completely clear. Residents made that very clear to council, both in their comments and speaking to us as well, that they felt that it was skewed one way or the other. And I would really like to see, because it's been 4 years, we have a lot of new residents, we've had a lot of people move out, and I would like to see from our residents whether or not they are in favor of this.
Your Worship, through Councillor Sandy, definitely if that's the direction of council, we'd be pleased to do that. I think we'd also have to provide some information for the residents to review so that they are have a little bit more education on urban hens, and we would be pleased to provide that as well as part of that survey.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Thanks to Councillor Stendy for that, because I do agree. I would like to see something go out so that we have updated information to talk about, updated feedback from our residents. However, I do seriously agree with what the CAO said. We need to, when that survey goes out, it can't just be a yes or no question, because it has to be, well, it can be yes or no, but we have to provide information, because that was, the number one comment we got last time regarding the survey. So I would love to see that happen.
Councillor Dennis.
I agree with having a survey, and especially now, because their last presentation was pre-COVID. And since COVID, there's been a lot more people like wanting to have a garden and whatnot. I think lifestyles have changed somewhat. And I think if we had it, would they be in favor of like a pilot project for 2 years with the, you know, like kind of itemized kind of control of if there's odors or whatnot, I think would be great.
Deputy Mayor Swab.
I do like this idea of a survey with yes and no. I also think that if there is a lot more yeses, that we should have an education kind of a component where people can actually come in and we can actually maybe have one of Miss Murrell's friends that was helping her present be a part of that, so that they have somebody that they can talk to about urban hens and the actual project and what it all entails. And maybe there's other people that we could have assist, because I think it's great that we're going to do a survey. I'm glad that administration would like to include stuff, but I also think there needs to be that public component where we actually educate people too, so that we're doing justice to what this has come from twice now. So I think that would be great.
Councillor Pell.
Thanks. Just a question through to Deputy Mayor Swab. Do you like an open house? Is that what you had in mind? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now I do have a couple of questions. Now looking back at this from 2019, administration had indicated that that they were looking for upwards of 22 applicants in order to consider this viable for the time and effort to put into this. So one question I would have is, and it might be a very simple answer, maybe it's an obvious answer. Could we trial this without having a bylaw? Is it something that we could give a limited trial for anyone that has expressed interest without actually having to pass a bylaw on this, see whether or not there's significant interest based on that?
I'd have to look into that a little further, Your Worship, and respond back to council.
Okay. My second, maybe this is a little bit more of a comment, but since Director Kruklowicz is here, I know that I saw something recently in terms of programming at the Abbey Center. They're looking for people that have unique expertise to maybe teach or take part in some programming. I wonder if maybe the residents who are interested in this, or the expertise that presented to us in our delegation, might be interested in some of that education through Abbey Center programming. I don't know if that's something that is possible. We don't have a bylaw to allow urban chickens, but is there anything that would prevent someone from bringing hens in for education through something like the Abbey Center?
Your Worship, I think once we go through the survey and providing information to the public and getting some feedback, that's definitely something that we could explore further, some options.
Okay. Deputy Swab.
I actually do like your idea about that, but I think it would be a great homeschool opportunity at the library, because there's a lot of homeschooled families in our community, and I think they would get more from going to the library than going to an Abbey Center for something along that lines. That's just what my comment.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I think obviously, though, if we're going to be looking at education for the public, somebody that has a knowledge and actually has access to hens, that would be kind of a critical part of that. So it seems like that we're deferring this back to administration to look at options in that. Is that the consensus here, or should we be making that let's see. Councillor Stendy.
I was just going to ask if I could make it a motion that council ask administration to put out a survey to our residents with an education piece. And then I do believe the rest of these conversations can be had after we receive the results of the survey.
Okay, so we do have a motion then. Any debate or discussion on that motion? And I will just comment, I think that this is coming to us again for a reason. I think it's obvious that we need to reach out and get a little more clarification. the last survey was split. I
Mhm.
think, as we know, was split, and as the comments have been made, maybe it was a little bit closer in terms of results because it was limited. So I would think there's a benefit to asking our community again. There's just going to be people that are polar opposites on this, obviously, based on the history of chickens in this community. But I think there's a distinct difference between urban hens and that chicken. So I would be in support of that motion. Any other discussion or debate? All in favor? So that's unanimous. Thank you. And that brings us to 7.4, request for a decision on the green capital project, the EV charging stations.
Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, Councillors, it's my honor to reintroduce this business item to you here tonight on EV charging station locations. As you would have read in the business item that we've prepared, we did our best to summarize what's transpired on the topic from its initial outset to now. As you will have read, an environmental stewardship strategy was identified in our 2016 Municipal Sustainability Plan. And in particular, goal number 2 on page 36 was to promote the reduction of energy usage through the implementation of conservation strategies, incentives, and policies. Further background is, in order to secure the available grants and meet the grant timeline of March 31st, 2023, administration is seeking council's approval for the EV charging station locations as presented in this business item. The grant application has been submitted and accepted and needs to be signed off by the municipality prior to the deadline. And so the 2 charging station locations need to be determined. In terms of discussion, as you're well aware, there was a number of motions made at the March 22nd, 2022 regular council meeting, all in which were passed unanimously, including that we apply for the charging station grant offered through the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, and the council support the implementation of an EV charging program for the community. And as well, we identified and established a maximum charging rate of $15 per hour for the level 3 charging systems. Based on the above motions, the then EDO applied for 1 level 3 charging unit and 1 level 2 charging unit. And as referenced earlier, this grant was approved. The locations that were chosen were done so considering access to the power supply that was required. The level 3 requires a high demand, and therefore the Civic Center was identified as being ideal based on the infrastructure that is available on site here. And additionally, the level 2 location was identified to be established on a portion of town-owned property adjacent to the LED sign at the front of the Blackfalds Motor Inn. This site is highly visible, easily accessible from Highway 2A, and with a readily available power supply. Additionally, I should mention that a stipulation of the grant is that these EV charging stations be located on municipal land. Additional or alternate locations, as outlined below, prove to be cost prohibitive at this time. Further, as previously discussed, there currently is a charging station behind Main Street Hardware, as many of you are aware. This station is not located on the maps, and there is no signage to direct residents and visitors to this station, unfortunately. Administration has made inquiries with Main Street Hardware to find out the number of vehicles that use the charger. However, they were unable to provide these answers to us because it's free to use, and so they don't have any statistics on its use. The level 2 the charging station that is behind Main Street Hardware is a level 2 and would be similar to that in which would be installed at the Blackfalds Motor Inn if approved. Upon approval and installation of these 2 charging stations, Marketing and Communications will request map updates from major internet providers and the Googles such that they would be identified henceforth. Administration sees the installation of these 2 charging stations to be an initial phase, and that additional charging stations would be required as the technology evolves. And it is expected that additional grant funding opportunities would also become available. Danielle, if you could please go to the map for this next portion. As you will see, additional phase locations that will be considered are as proposed and identified on the map. And aside from the The two that are identified in this first phase being at Civic Center here and at the Blackfalds Motor Inn. We would propose future locations may include the Blackfalds Crossing commercial site, which again would be not town funded, Tuddy Pond Park parking lot, town-owned parking lot across from Piccolo's. Additionally, the EBC, the Eagle Builder Center parking lot, the Wadey Center parking lot, and as was previously suggested by council, perhaps another option or location on the east side of town. It is believed that as additional development takes place and the community continues to grow, other locations will likely be identified, including commercial areas, and it would be incumbent upon the EDO, Economic Development Officer, to engage in ongoing collaboration and to seek out these opportunities, which I will. It's been determined that in conversations with developers and in suppliers of this infrastructure that it's a requirement for new residential home lots to be supplied with 200 amp service to account for future EV adoption. As vehicle manufacturers continue to advance EV model production, we can expect to see a growing need for these charging stations. And additionally, there's been a steady increase of EV charging stations installed at conventional service station locations, right next to our typical fossil fuel pumps. And it's expected that we will see further expansion of these charging stations at these locations as well. The financial implications, as was presented at previous council meetings, is before you. And again, as specified in our grant, in our applied for and received grant application. And the general capital reserve has been identified as the funding source for these EV projects. And so on behalf of administration, our recommendation is that council moves to accept this recommendation from administration to install a level 3 charging station at the Civic Center, as well as a level 2 charging station on town-owned lands at the southwest corner of Park Street and Highway 2.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Svaab.
I do like the area that you guys have chosen. Unfortunately, though, I was wondering if we could swap so that the level 3 would be at the hotel, because there's places where people can go and eat, and while their car is charging, they can actually go do something, or they can go for a quick walk on the walking trail not too far from there. My only concern would be, what would the cost to update that infrastructure to have that there? Would that cost?
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor Svaab, I couldn't tell you specifically at this time. Certainly I could look further into it, but from an infrastructure perspective, I would suggest that it would be fairly cost prohibitive and also rather disruptive in terms of the parking lot itself and adjacent to the highway. And so I'd like where your head's at in terms of an opportunity for people to linger and to be able to enjoy what BMI has to offer. Certainly, if that is the direction, I'm happy to look into that further. But
Well, and subsequent with the charging station, the second option being here, there's more people that will use the Eagle Builder Center for a hockey game, or in the summer, they'll use the spray park. So they have time to actually enjoy the amenities around it,
Right.
where it takes longer for it to charge. So that's why I was thinking if we swapped it, and from speaking with residents in the community, that would just make it more, I don't know, more touristic, I guess, for those kind of things to happen. So
I can certainly just comment to that. I'm very much am all in favor of providing opportunities for folks to stay and play and shop and experience and investigate the town. And so absolutely, regardless of location, that is our intention here, is to make sure that we're strategic in that approach.
Councillor Sands.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with Deputy Mayor Svaab. I'd like to see the cost in swapping those out, because I feel it just makes more sense to have a 3 over there as opposed to a 2. But that's what I'm leaning towards, and that's what I would like to see as well. Thank you.
Sure. Sorry. I should just say, as a matter of clarification, the level 3 is the fast charge option, and so that is the one that's being proposed at Civic Center, and the level 2 is the trickle charge. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see the cost to upgrade that so that we could, possibly switch those locations.
Councillor Stenday?
So knowing that we have a grant timeline of March 31st, do you feel that you have enough time to bring that potential cost forward to the next meeting, whether it be standing committee or council, just so council has all of the information and can make a decision with all of the information prior to deciding these locations?
Great question. And in light of the timeline, I appreciate that. I do, in consideration that we have been working closely with electrical contractors, and we've got a pretty robust lineup of folks within the administration, have a pretty good understanding on our existing infrastructure. I think that, yes, I can provide that information to council prior to the grant application deadline and on the March 14th meeting, I think it would be.
Councillor Pell?
Thank you. With the grant paperwork that we have in right now, so my concern with the level 2 is that it takes longer, and we know that the technology on this is evolving all the time. So
Certainly.
I do have, and I know I've expressed this before when we've spoken about it, but I'll mention it again. I do have concerns about putting something in that's already an older technology. So my question is, with the grant approved for one level 3 and one level 2, would we have to move forward with both of them, or would it be possible to adjust our grant to only move forward with one charger and a level 3 charger? And my other reasoning for that is that the grant for the level 3 charger is significantly more. I just don't know that for an $8,000 savings, let's say, of getting the grant to install a level 2 that's already a slower technology, I don't know if it makes sense for us to do that. The grant, to me, isn't enough incentive to go forward with that, especially considering the location options that we have. I still really, and I know that we're limited with the grant because it has to be on town location, town land, but I really think something on the east side, closer to actual more shopping locations in walking distance makes significantly more sense, or something closer to a park or pond. So Teddy Pond makes sense. Here at the Civic Center, it makes sense. It makes slightly less sense now that we won't have fleet vehicles that are electric, which I know had come forward at this time when things made a little more sense. But now that we don't have it here, I don't know that I just don't know that it makes sense. So my question is, if we were to move forward with this, do we have to move forward with both?
Okay, thank you for your question. I don't have as much history, as it relates to me being fairly new in the position, so I don't have the complete history with the grant program. However, I can say that I've been in close contact with the administrators of the grant, and certainly I will find out and report back if that is the direction.
And certainly I'm willing to hear that if that's the direction of everyone, but that was just my question, because as it stands right now, I'm going to have a hard time voting for this. Thanks.
Councillor Sands? Oh, I see two at a time. How did that work? Okay, I saw Councillor Sands first. So.
I'm gonna just respectfully disagree with Councillor Appel. I feel that the level 2 and the level 3s right now are a good thing to move forward with. And I know, moving forward in the future, we're going to see a lot more of these things popping up. And I know we can't always be sure that we're going to get this grant funding put into place all the time. So I think we need to jump on that if we can. But I'd also like to know what we do have in our general capital reserve if we're going to put any money into this, if anybody knows.
I think As was outlined in the business item, I think that the reserve has been identified as the funding source to make up the shortfall on this particular grant application, if that is the question. As far as future charging stations would go, I couldn't answer that at this time.
No, my question is how much money do we have in the general capital reserves that we can utilize?
I could defer that question to our Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I don't have the amount in front of me. However, this was initially identified in the 10-year capital or in the 2023 capital. So there is more than enough in there at the moment, but I don't have that specific figure.
Deputy Mayor Svaab.
Just a comment to Councillor Pell. I know I would love something on the east side too, but the Blackfalds Motor Inn is really close to the east side and there's a walking trail in the pond right across the street. So that's why I'm kind of going with that for now. I know we can get there eventually, but at least it's one step closer to the east side. And then I know this isn't going to affect the grant application, but since you're going to bring something back anyway, I'm just wondering, because we put the $15 per hour for the level 3 charging system. Are we able to find out what other areas around us are charging? Because with the cost of everything going up, I'm wondering if that's a really low fee and if we need to capitalize on it a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Coulter.
I'm agreeing sort of with everybody. I like the idea of having a level 2 and a level 3, but I agree very much with Councillor Appel in regards to putting the level 3 down at Highway 2 at the Blackfalds Motor Inn and the level 2 up here. As she pointed out in regards to there's the spray park and hockey games up here, giving the time where making it more appealing for somebody up here, but somebody that's coming along the highway wants something quick to eat. They're not going to bring it up here to park it for an hour and walk down there. On the other aspect, I'm not too sure on the future sites. I feel that some of those future sites might not be the best use sites, but that's something that we'd look at a future date.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Stendy.
So if there are no further questions, I'm prepared to make a motion that we refer this back to administration to bring more information on the questions asked tonight at the next meeting.
And I do just have comment or looking for clarification before we consider that motion. I know I've asked the question before, and I think my understanding of this is that the majority of the cost for these units that we're projecting in this item is the hardware and not so much the installation. I know that likely the difference between these two is going to be 110 versus 220 and access to that and putting that it's drastically different costs. But if I understand this correctly, that's not the majority of the cost in this project. It's obtaining the hardware. And if I understand also the answers that I've been given before, once we have this hardware, we own this hardware and we can do with it what we want. And if in the future we feel that it's more beneficial to have it in a different location, I'm fairly confident that we can move it. And I don't think that all the locations that this might work for in the town are yet accessible with the development as has been suggested in this item. That I think there are better locations in the future, but we don't have access to those based on developments. So I think, as Councillor Sands indicated, that I would like to see us take advantage of these grants and obtain this hardware. Whether or not this is the best location for these things, I don't think any of us know for sure. We all have different opinions. I would suggest that maybe this would work in different locations that maybe don't have access to the power yet. And I would like to see them moved in the future if that's the case. I look at this as a trial. we buy this through the hardware through this grant, and then we see how much use it gets, and then we potentially move them to a better location once we have it. And maybe my question in that would be, is there anything, as far as you know, in this grant that prevents us from moving this? Is there a timeline that they have to stay? Because obviously they did specify that it has to be a municipal property. Does it restrict us from moving within a certain amount of time, as far as you know?
I couldn't answer that question for you now, Your Worship, but certainly I can look into it.
Okay. Councillor Pell.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover. I think that is a fantastic question because that had not occurred to me, and I would love to know the answer to that coming forward to our next one and what our options are after the grant.
Sorry, if I could add, I would suspect that there wouldn't be any stipulations or parameters surrounding us moving them. Again, as you suggested, Your Worship, it's our equipment once we've bought it. However, there would be, of course, the cost implication to supplying infrastructure and installing it elsewhere and refurbishing, so to speak, existing locations if we were to remove them. But obviously, it goes without saying.
Okay, so if I'm understanding the discussion and the response that you've given, we're going to be referring this back for a little bit more clarification. But is this something, CEO Thompson, that can come back to us at the next regular council meeting? I think it would obviously have to if we're going to meet that timeline. Yeah. So that's something that will be brought. So can we get a motion to defer this back to administration? I think Councillor Stenny was considering that. Councillor Stenny.
I did make that motion.
Thank you. Any debate or discussion? All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
And that brings us to item 7.5. Now, based on recommendations from our FOIP coordinator, that it was suggested that this item be brought in camera, confidential, under section 19, employee evaluations. So with that, for those watching, we will be going into in camera, which means that this video section will end. And based on how our technology is working, that'll end this video. When we come back into the public meeting, it'll be another video. So can I get a motion to go in camera? Okay, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So we are going to commence with part 2 of the regular council meeting for February 28th, the public portion. We are looking at business item 7.5, a request for decision, appointment of a member at large for the rec board. So we have discussed this in camera, and we are prepared to accept the motion on that part. Deputy Mayor Schwab.
I'll move that council appoints Christy Lawrence as our member at large for the Blackfalds and District Recreation, Culture and Parks Board, effective immediately, with the position ending October 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no action correspondence. Moving into information items. Item 9.1, rural e-scooter service suspension. CEO Thompson.
Thank you, Worship. Just simply received an email earlier this month from Roll Scooters, and I'm just going to read it. Hope all is well. As a small player in the shared scooter industry, we've been had to make a tough decision to halt our operations in Blackfalds. Despite our best efforts, we haven't been able to secure the necessary funding to continue our operations, and unfortunately, we won't be able to provide our services to the community. So they just want to take a moment to express their heartfelt appreciation for the support and partnership that they received from the town of Blackfalds, and are truly grateful for the opportunity to serve the community.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. So just one question through the chair to CEO Thompson. So if they are removing themselves from the agreement that we had where they would have exclusivity in Blackfalds, it would seem that this opens us up to have a contract with a different e-scooter supplier.
Yeah.
So my question then would be, is this something that administration will be pursuing? And in order to do so, do you need a motion?
Yes, Your Worship, through to Councillor Pell, our Economic Development Officer will pursue all other opportunities to provide, have that service resume in the municipality.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. 9.2, 2023 Red Deer Home Show.
Your Worship, I think that information is just there for council's review. If there's any questions, I can definitely respond. I think what our Economic Development Officer was looking for, if any council members wanted to volunteer their time to take part in the show at the booth and to meet and greet and provide information to the public. We have some names of EdTech members as well as staff members that are wanting to participate. You can see the time slots there, and we can work with individual council members, whatever time they have, they can make available.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be adding my name to, I'll send you something
Okay.
this week.
Yeah,
for that.
council can just send them to myself and Danielle preferred time, and then we can work with Economic Development Officer on that.
Thank you. 9.3, Volunteer Recognition Award 2023 plans provided for information. 9.4, Eagle Builder Center deficiencies. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Just a question regarding the FCSS awards and plans. Is administration looking for council to volunteer to assist at any of these events at this point?
We can ask the volunteer programmer if that's required.
Wonderful. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you.
Eagle Builders Center deficiencies list provided for information. Any questions? Councillor Dennis.
When you're standing at the concession upstairs,
Yeah.
they have a window there and it looks like raw wood on the top. Has that been finished?
I'm trying to picture where exactly you're
Like
talking
it's inside the concession and
Okay.
it's like a pass-through window.
Oh, yes.
And it looks like it's not finished on the top. I just wondered if there's other things that aren't finished in there.
Okay, let me check into that one.
Sure, thanks.
9.5, Lacombe Foundation organizational meetings for December. 9.7, County of Lacombe highlights from February 9. No questions. Can I get a motion to accept information items? Councillor Dennis.
I'll move them as for information.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Moving into roundtable discussions. I don't recall which way I went before, so I'm going to start with Councillor Coulter and move to the right.
I believe I have everything there. If anybody has any questions, they can ask me.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis, deferring. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Yes, the same. The only comment I will make is that I do look forward to council rescheduling a date with the Chimo Club for us to attend.
Thank you. Yeah, I was approached. I went to the to the Bulldogs game over the weekend, and one of I think it was their director, chair, recognized me and grabbed me and suggested that they had another date. They weren't able to answer me at that point whether or not they wanted that open to all of council, but I did indicate to them that there are a number of members of council that would love to meet the Chimo Club. So when they do, I will be certain to clarify. And I think it was unfortunate. I don't know why I was able to remain. I think it's because I was the last one, and they were exhausted in telling people that they wanted to cancel our invitation at that point. So I look forward to meeting them again. And I think I'll just cover mine as we're moving to the right to left. And the only thing that I wanted to do is express my appreciation to the intermediate campus who invited me. Oh, well, I was considered but I was considered a prize for their math and their math-a-thon. And so they had a bunch of students that shared their lunch hour, and they call it muffins with the mayor. It was great fun to share that time. So thank you to intermediate campus for inviting me for that. Deputy Mayor Svab?
I forgot to add, and I know a lot of us forgot to add, the January 20th special meeting. So if you could add that to my report, that would be great. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sands?
And I also forgot to put that in for January 20th. So I apologize for that. Yeah, and that's all.
Councillor Stendy?
I have nothing to speak on.
Thank you. So can we get a motion to accept roundtable discussions as information? Councillor Sands?
So moved.
All in favor? That is unanimous. Moving on to 11.1, adoption of the minutes for February 14th. Any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Move to accept as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous. We do have a notice of motion, 12.1 Eagle Builder Center deficiencies, which were covered under information. Are we going to open that up for questions?
Your worship, administration feels that we've provided this information as we indicated last council meeting. However, we did include the notice of motion as it was provided. So if Councillor Dennis wants to withdraw it, whatever.
Councillor Dennis, do you have anything to add to your notice of motion?
Will we continue to get updates on things that aren't completed?
Yeah, we'll
then?
provide ongoing updates with the CEO report.
Thank you. So since that is on the agenda, maybe a simple motion to accept for information? Or is that necessary at this point? Or do we need to action this in any other way?
It should be actioned that I would say that it should be withdrawn.
Councillor Dennis? Since we've covered it under information items, are you prepared to withdraw that as a notice of motion?
If I withdraw it, I definitely want to see reports on it. For sure.
Your worship, as administration indicated, we will include it in the CEO report on a monthly basis.
Okay, thank you. Are you happy with that? The alternative would be to make a motion to accept that or to have administration report that in their CA report. So you're acceptable to withdraw. Do you need a vote? Thank you. Withdrawn. Business for the good of council. I see none. Anything that council would potentially add for the good of council? Thank you. And that moves us into our last item, which is another confidential item under FOIP section 16. So we will be moving in camera. Can I get a motion to move into camera? Councillor Sands.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you.